Hi there, this is Michelle Hocko with Remax Real Estate Center, sales representative and accredited senior agent. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about downsizing. I have had the privilege over the years of helping many people with downsizing style moves. And this is a very emotional journey, and there's a lot of things to consider. Certainly a lot of customized service involved with helping people through that process, which can start in a lot of different areas. And we're here today to speak with Mary Dilly from Downsizing Solutions to see what the best process is, how to get started, and how we kind of make these moves happen in a really stress-free, supportive way. Mary, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. And you'll know this, they say that when you're moving, it's up there along the lines of a death for the stress level.
Yeah.
And boy, have we seen that. So whether you're in a house for 2 years, 5 years, 50, 60 years, everybody has stuff, everybody. So we've seen it all. There's nothing that you can throw at us that we wouldn't. Sorry about that. At home Zoom calls. This is Lily.
Oh, so lovely.
I should have locked her out of the room.
No.
So there's nothing, and there that goes to show everyone has pets, everyone has animals. We've seen it all, and no judgment, of course. So the hardest thing about when you're realizing that you need to move is your stuff. You look around your house, everybody has Monica's closet. Everybody knows, you go to the basement first and oh my God, what's in the basement? That's where you start. So it's just a matter of making the decision that I'm going to move. Whether it's 2 to 5 years that you're making a move, start now. Because God forbid you have a slip and fall or there's a death in the family, and then you have to make it a move in a stressful environment and not on your terms. You want to make the move on your terms. So get somebody in for a complimentary consultation. We do it all the time. We can walk you through your house. We can talk to you about your pain points. So like I said, a basement is mostly everyone's pain points. My pain points are my closets.
And you're not alone. We've been through a lot of closets. Absolutely. And it's funny when, just like you had said there, the thing that holds people back is the stuff. So there comes a point, and sometimes it's a financial point where people are like, we could retire if we could downsize from this house we have. We could be in a place that's more suitable because we're starting to have aches and pains and our legs aren't working as well, and we want to not have stairs anymore.
Right.
God forbid you have someone who's starting to suffer from some sort of dementia or Alzheimer's. And what I have actually found is people kind of often get stuck in this caregiving scenario in properties that are not really suitable for them anymore. And they're stuck there because of the stuff, like literally, like you had said about the person who's been in the house for 50 years. My gosh, like it's emotional. Yeah. It is like physically, they're not up for the job because even, I'm sure you would attest, just trying to get through some of this stuff. It's a very physical project. And then they don't want to be a burden on their families, right? We don't want to call the kids to make them do this work.
Yeah, but here's the part about that, Michelle, when you said they don't want to be a burden to their kids.
Yeah.
If they don't downsize, if they don't move out of the big house, if they don't, get the stuff out for donation or donate to the kids, then when they die, guess what? The kids come in, and it's emotional because maybe that's the house the kids grew up in, and now they have to disperse of everything. I always tell people, if you've got a piano and your grandkids want to play piano, donate the piano to the grandkids now so you can watch them play piano. You can hear them. Yeah. It's very daunting, but you can do it. You can do it step by step, and you can go as quickly or as slowly as you want. You can do one room a week. You could do one room a month. And I love seeing the looks on people's faces because you do a room and we have fun. I have the best team. We laugh. We're a group of the women, the Packers. We're all of a certain age, so we're like the people's kids. We have a really good time with the clients. Sometimes we become like family. But then for them to come in and look at a room and go, wow, this room's gorgeous. And that wasn't hard to do at all. That's when we love seeing the look on the faces. And we can do things like we can do cleaning, we can do gardening, like we can really help prep the entire house for sale. But you're right, it's that first step, that first emotional step. It's the first phone call. It's always the hardest to make, isn't it?
It is. And I love your website, because it says on the homepage, it says all you need to do is plug in the kettle. And so what I have found is like dealing with people who are making this major move, and you're saying like it being this really big stress point, which 100% it is, but I think it's actually because we're moving through a different season of life now, right? And it's so emotionally loaded. So sometimes I find even coming in to talk to people, to consult about what the value of the house is, because they're thinking, oh, we need to retire, something maybe in health has changed. If we sell the big house now, we can move on with our other plans.
Right.
But it becomes really challenging, because there's a lot of stories to be told. There's things that need to be honored in that house, right? So, and I feel like sometimes if you think, and I think sometimes people think if they bring in somebody for downsizing, maybe they're just going to blow through everything. And no, I know the team that you work with and the way that you work through things, it really is honoring those belongings. Like it's that finding the home for the place that was really, really important to you. And now that thing can have a second life. So all of a sudden, emotionally, that block can start to move over a little bit, because you're not imagining that thing being put in a dumpster. You're realizing
that's our last resource. I can't stand that. So I don't know if you saw on the website, but I donate to women moving out of Halton Women's Place and new refugees, and also people like, we just helped a lady whose apartment burnt down, and she had nothing left. So what another great thing is that when you're dealing with these people, and you know what, we love hearing those stories. We love sitting down with the clients and hearing all the stories and looking at the pictures with them. But what I can offer them then, if we can't sell it, and I don't know, since COVID, things just aren't selling. But if we can't sell it, I can donate it. So I have a storage locker. Access Storage has given me a free storage locker for 3 years. And so if someone has a dining room set, the big tables with the 12 chairs and the hutch and everything, and nobody wants those anymore, I can donate those to a family. So like I always say, imagine a family coming out of Halton Women's Place and their first night in their new home, and they're sitting at a dining room table having dinner with their kids, because they've probably been living in the shelter for 4 to 6 months.
Yes.
So
that's a lot to get set up. And I absolutely loved it when we were talking about that before as well. And just that arrangement, because I know personally from having done yard sales for the Cure over the years, to donate stuff to the Halton Women's Place. And I always liked to want to do that. And they used to accept some things, but then they really mostly wanted new things because they didn't have a facility to keep it. Right. So there are some charities that do work with them. But certainly, if you are downsizing, then having, someone you can work with who can actually store the things until they are going to be useful for somebody is extremely helpful. And then they are going to someone who can really, really use them, because you're right. I actually had a client recently, and they did bring them ultimately to be donated, but it wasn't to a Habitat for Humanity, because that was also very hard to donate to some of these larger dining room sets or things that take up space in their stores as well. All right. So for everybody out there who's listening to this, and they're very interested, of course, because this is a great solution for a lot of people who have been putting off a move, or maybe you are an adult child of somebody who has been thinking about moving, but you're maybe sensing that they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by dealing with all this stuff. What would the first step be? So obviously you would have Mary in for a cup of tea. And then what would the process look like from there, Mary?
Yeah, it depends what time of day it is. It's a tea or a glass of wine. No.
Okay, fair enough.
We would come in for a complimentary consultation, and we would walk through the house with the client. We would look at the pain points, look at what needs to be done. Then we put together a little program for them. So it's all on their say, what they want to do, how quickly or how slowly they want to move. It depends, can they work with us 4 hours a day, or can they work with us 7 hours a day? It's all about the client and making them comfortable. The next step would be to start the downsizing process. So we make it really simple. We come in with green painter's tape and blue painter's tape. And if the piece of furniture is going with them to the new place, it gets a piece of green painter's tape. If it's being donated, it gets a piece of blue painter's tape on it. That way, when my movers come in, They look at the boxes, they look at the furniture, and they know exactly what's going for donation and what's staying in the house. The next process is we can prep the house for sale. And so that's easy. That's one of my favorite things to do, actually. I like doing that. So we can come in, and unfortunately, as you can see, this is my office and it's red. And
that's where I come in.
Yeah, I'm a real estate agent's nightmare. So we would take things off, like your personal things off the walls. The picture of Aunt Mildred over the fireplace. We would exchange that with maybe a nature picture. And we just tidy up and we clean up. I have a cleaning service that comes in. I have a gardening service that comes in because spring is here, hopefully. So we would prep the house for sale. Then your stager would come in, because I don't stage. And then your stager would come in and get the house ready for sale. The house goes up for sale. I prefer, when we're working with seniors, if they're moving to, so let's say, retirement, I prefer that they move out before the house goes up for sale, especially with COVID. We didn't want to see any of our clients sitting in the house with 70 or 80 people coming through. And then after, when the house is sold, we will come back in, pack everything up, and do the eventual move. We can ship things. If you've got things to go to your kids in Vancouver or Ottawa or wherever, we can do all that also. So it's a one-stop shop. You don't have to call the plumbers, you don't have to call the painters, you just call me. Yeah. And so we can make it as easy as possible. And you know what's interesting? 98% of the people that I work with say to me, oh my God, if I'd known there was a service like this, I would have moved 5 years ago. Another thing, just if I can, about family dynamics, it's really hard for the adult kids, because a lot of times they're the ones pushing their parents to move. When my dad was 90, my sister and I were terrified that he was going to fall down the stairs. So we got him to move to a condo, so there weren't any stairs. But there's a real guilt thing. And I often deal with the adult kids, and they say, oh my God, I feel so guilty. I'm making my mom and dad move to retirement living. And I say, are you kidding? Your parents have earned this. They deserve this. They never have to cook another meal again. We just moved a couple into one of the retirement homes here. And I said to the lady, I'll come and visit. And she said, oh, I'm just going to be sitting in my room with my husband and not doing anything. I called her the next week and said, can I come for lunch? She said, well, I'm playing euchre at 2:00, and I've got
yes, of course she was.
Aquafit at 4:30, and then at 7:00 we're watching the Harry and Meghan documentary. So how about next week, Mary?
Yes. And I'm so glad you said that. I find I usually connect with people, well, a variety of different circumstances, but when it's younger seniors that I connect with, they're thinking of making this change. But it's interesting. I have this joke. It's like that dining room table stopped them from moving for 5 years because, oh my God, because it's like, we go and look at condos maybe, and it's like, oh man, but where will my dining room table go? Right. Because they're so used to doing things in a certain way. And everybody's kind of at a different point if they're moving to a retirement community, or if we're just seeking out a condo that's going to suit them. Maybe it's a bungalow, right? Maybe they're coming from a huge 2-story house and now it's time to move into a bungalow. Maybe they're moving in with family. We don't really know. But I find sometimes, like, when there's all these things that people have in their mind. And if you sit down with them sometimes, it'd be like, oh, well, you know what? There's condos that actually have really beautiful dining room party rooms that you can just sign up and use. You can still host a big Thanksgiving dinner, or you can do something like that if you want to. You can host a big party. There's some condo buildings that have guest suites. So, you're like worried because, like, oh, I have a kid who comes in from Vancouver, for example, and I don't have any extra place for them to really stay. Well, some of these places you can actually rent rooms, almost like a hotel, for example, right? So there's a lot of different possibilities. And I think that the barrier to people making moves sometimes, especially moves like this, are not having information, being really nervous to get involved with a real estate agent or a downsizer. But I think real estate agents have the word, like, I want to say bad reputation, but the one that people are more nervous about, because they maybe don't want to sell their house. They just need information to decide whether or not it's appropriate to move forward and where they would go if they did. So I love that you're suggesting that people maybe get on top of this a little sooner instead of a little bit later, because if you're getting involved with somebody like Mary, at least you can start working on this project at a pace that suits you,
Yeah.
so that you're nimble. Then if you want to move, you move.
Yeah.
If you're happy with your new minimalist life and you've found people to come in and help you take care of different parts of your home and it's still working for you,
Mhm.
great. But unfortunately, what I see a lot of the time is people who have stayed maybe in the house they're in a little longer than maybe they should have. And now there has been some sort of health crisis that's gone on, a
Absolutely.
death or something tragic. And now they're being moved to the next stage, to a place that they maybe haven't even chosen.
Right.
But just because it was so urgent, right? There hasn't been a lot of time to choose.
Yeah.
And now this piece becomes more difficult, right? Because now the family is trying to get in there and they're trying to sort through the things on their own. And the person whose home that is really kind of loses control of the process.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you've actually talked about, you know, having to visit them at the hospital or using
Oh, yeah.
to show them, because you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're honoring, you know, the things that are important to them. So,
Yeah. And
um,
the worst thing about that is the phone calls that you get from the adult kids. And, when I get a phone call and, my mom's in the hospital and they're telling her she has to be discharged and what do we do? You can feel the pain and the fear in that person's voice. So I advocate strongly, start it now.
yeah,
I don't care if you move in 5 years. It doesn't make any difference to me.
yeah.
Let us help you now, because then the choice is there.
Yes, absolutely. And then if something does change, as you had mentioned before, because everybody's in a different financial position as well, right? So if you're a person who does have to sell your house in order to maybe fund moving to a retirement community,
Mhm.
then the more organized you are, the
Oh, yeah.
better. And then when we came in as realtors, depending on, you know, how recently you've made renovations in your home, whatever the case might be, it's easy for me and my home stager to walk through the house with Mary and say, okay, leave us these pieces,
Yes.
stage
Yeah.
the house with, because if we can leave some stuff and it doesn't matter, it's going to be better than, you know, showing it empty.
Yes.
If you know, if there's small renovation things that should be done that's going to help with the value a lot, we can obviously help get those things done if the person who owns the house is interested in going through that process.
Yes.
And otherwise, you know, we will modify what we would maybe normally do to kind of suit that circumstance. And I do strongly agree that it is better often when, if possible, for the person not to be living there as they go through that process, because that can be very stressful. And I mean, depending on your age, if you're younger, maybe you're good to go for a walk or go for a drive while somebody looks at your house. But I find as there are more things going on, if there is dementia and things like that involved, that becomes a very stressful and confusing process for people. So, but we can obviously advise on a case by case on what the best thing to do is there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of what we wanted to talk about this time. But is there anything you'd like to add in today before we wrap up?
No, just that don't be afraid. It's
Definitely don't be afraid.
fun. We can help you through the process, and we do it every day. There's nothing we haven't seen, and I will do another podcast later. I could tell you stuff, but there's nothing that we haven't seen, and nothing, we don't judge.
Yes.
We
Oh
just
my
want to
gosh.
help.
So judgment free. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's great is there are people who do this for a living, right? Like you said. And so there is a fast way to do things. There's an easy way to sell things that need to be sold. I know that you work with even antique dealers and things like
Yes.
that to help sort through really valuable items,
Yeah.
sentimental things. Obviously, I know you know exactly how to handle that and to make
Yeah.
sure that those things are kept safe during a move, because those are beautiful things to revisit once we get situated in a new place as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today. It's so lovely to meet up
Fun.
with you on Zoom, and thank you for doing this. And I
Yeah.
will look forward to maybe some storytelling in the future, and maybe we can zone in on some really specific topics. And if anybody out there listening has some specific questions, if they would like to book a conversation with Mary, Mary is at Downsizing Solutions. You will see her website and you will see a beautiful little pineapple on her website. It's very, very cute. Or you can certainly reach out to me and I can connect you with Mary as well. If you would like more information about real estate, you know, maybe you haven't been through the process for 50 years, and I can assure you it's changed quite a bit since maybe you purchased your home. I'm happy to come in and do a consultation for you explain the process and go through all the fees and costs and all of the things. So there's absolutely no surprises, because I feel like these moves are much, much better if everything is under control and you kind of know what to expect. Oh, and that is one thing we should have talked about before we part ways. I know Mary does a great thing. If you know where you're moving to, which some people do, some people don't have the luxury of that when they're in the process of getting organized for a quick downsize. But if you do know where you're going, Mary will help you put together a beautiful floor plan of where you're going, so you can actually decide what's going to fit. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll part ways?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a real boutique business. So what we do is when we do the move, we actually move them into the new place. We make the beds, we hang the pictures, unpack all the boxes, put everything away. We take pictures of the place before we move, and then we try and set it up as close as possible to the old place. When I move someone from a house to another house or a condo, I even have dinner in the oven for them on the day of the move-in. I know that's one of our favorite things.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So we can customize it however the client wants it, as much or as little as need be.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will connect. I will add Mary's information below as well in the details of this YouTube. And if you are seeing this on any other social media channel, I will tag you in all of these as well. Are you up on social media as well, Mary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Sometimes my friends say I'm too much on social media.
Excellent. Well, I'll look forward to tagging you in this as well then. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate
It's my pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.